Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. The federal government first introduced the food pyramid in 1992. It had 6 categories: bread, rice, cereal, and pasta at the base, then fruits, vegetables, dairy, and protein in the middle, with fats and oils and sweets at the very top. In 2005, the chart was revised to focus on calories and exercise. Now, in 2011, the pyramid went away when then First Lady Michelle Obama introduced My Plate, a graphic divided into 4 sections with fruits, veggies, grain, and protein. And now the pyramid is back, but markedly different from its original version. What's changed, and is it the change good for you? We'll talk about it next on Another View, right after this national, regional, and local news from NPR and WHRO News.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Can't wait to have this conversation with our favorite cardiologist, Dr. Newby. But before we get to that, I want to tell you about a wonderful program that is happening that I think, in light of everything that's happening in our world today, it may bring a breath of fresh air and an opportunity to feel like you're doing something. So the Hampton Roads Community Foundation, along with the YWCA, or Southampton Roads and Freemason Street Baptist Church, they're bringing back for the 3rd year community peacemaking circles. Now, this is a safe space to uplift all voices, build trust, connect with community, and start your own racial healing conversation. Community peacemaking circles are around, bring the community together around truth-telling, reconciliation, racial healing, and it gives voice to different perspectives and experiences. The very first one is February the 17th. That is the opening circle. Now, if you decide to join this, it is a commitment. So it starts at 6 p.m., and that's check-in and dinner, and then the circle conversations happen at 6:45. All of them will be held at Freemason Street Baptist Church in Norfolk, and you can register at communitypeacemaking-circles.eventbrite.com. That's communitypeacemaking-circles.eventbrite.com. And if you want to participate, everyone must attend the first session so that you can understand how the subsequent sessions work. So go check it out. It is free, but it is a commitment of time, but it is also very, very uplifting. So I hope that you will participate. So Health and Human Services Director Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says it's time for people to eat real food in order to be healthy. The Trump administration has released the 2025-2030 dietary guidelines, displayed as an inverted pyramid that prioritizes protein, healthy fat, and whole grains, and discourages eating highly processed foods, added sugars, and carbohydrates. Is this a healthy diet good for you and your heart? Let's ask the doctor in the house, cardiologist Dr. Newby, who is head of cardiology and market director of community health improvement and engagement, all with Bon Secours. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I know it's a mouthful for sure. I'm doing well, and yourself?
Good. I'm doing well. Good. And again, we extend our sincere condolences to you in the passing of your mom.
Thank you very much. That's been a tough road, but she lived a great life. I can't say enough, and she made an impact that she wanted to make in this world.
That's
so
fantastic.
To me, that's where it's all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So JFK says real food. So for Black folk, does that mean soul food all the time?
Well, I tell you what a lot of it boils down to is, and this is one of the few times I think I've agreed with this administration on this one item. about food recommendations. And if you look at other countries, their health profile is a lot better. We have the worst health outcomes of any, let's short of third world countries, we have the worst outcomes. And a lot of it's based on the processed foods that we consume. A lot of people can debate that point, but the data is pretty clear. So I think if you look at how we go back to the basics, which is what we should do anyway.
Fruits, vegetables,
exactly,
protein.
and not a bunch of processed foods.
So the question is about, the controversy, if you will, is about the saturated fats and the I just lost my train of thought. So let's talk about saturated fats first.
Yeah. Well, I think if you look at that, I'm still not a big fan on making that like the staple of your diet, because there are I think some advantages at times, because you get your iron comes from red meat. So I think a controlled amount I think is more than fine. But it's just the issue that I think we have is you really think about it. What do we typically eat? Somebody will say, I eat a lot of chicken, but they're going to a deli place and it's sliced chicken, which is not real. That's processed food. So I think if you went back to the absolute basics and you say, okay, everything was ground or, wasn't processed, I think you'll find that the health outcomes are markedly better. And they are, so I don't disagree with that. And I think this is where I think we should head.
And saturated fats is not an issue for your heart?
Well, I was saying it's best how much of it you have.
So again, it's got to be in moderation.
Yeah, I think that one, that could be debated, because a lot of it is more speculation and some of it's data driven, but some of it's more just recommendations people have. But I think if you you look at it totality, characteristically, if you say, okay, less red meat, that's fine, but then it's the other stuff we consume along with that may be getting us more in trouble than the actual red meat itself, because characteristically.
So it's also the way that you cook it,
the way that you cook it, the way you prepare it, with other things that go along with it. Because typically, if you're eating red meat, mashed potatoes, gravy, whatever, just goes along with it. All the bread we eat along with it. So is it the red meat by itself, or is it the other stuff going along with it?
Gotcha. So keep eating the collard greens with smoked turkey necks.
As
opposed to.
I think if you look at even all that stuff, there was some. I remember reading some literature data not too long ago about this whole issue of processed foods and how it negatively impacts the salt content and just the way they prepare. Now the downside is that it's cheap. So people that are on a fixed budget will say, okay, how do I feed my family when I'm only making but X amount? I can get this processed stuff for half the price. Then this other stuff.
And not only that, but a lot of people, don't y'all yell at me because I can hear my husband right now, but a lot of people don't cook.
Yeah. Need to learn how.
Need to learn how to cook.
The one thing I would say, like my mom, and God bless her, she was really big on us knowing how to do stuff. When I was 11 years old, she taught me how to cook, how to clean, how to wash my own clothes. My wife loves me because, I came up with that concept of learning how to care for myself. So I didn't need to just, go out. And a lot of times you can learn how to cook if you so choose. You just got to want to do it, because people will find a way to do what they want to do. If they want to do something, they will find a way.
So for the longest time, people were saying don't do whole milk. This diet says whole milk is back on the table. That's is that? In terms of children and children's obesity and so forth, is that an issue?
No, I don't think so. I'll tell you why. Because it depends on what you do with it. Everything is about what you do with it. If you're drinking whole milk and then you're eating some Cheetos or something, just something that's in a package.
Gotcha.
That's the issue, because the unfortunate reality is if you go on most college campuses, they don't have healthy choices for these kids. And look at the obesity rates and look at the hypertension rates you're seeing, diabetes rates in our younger people. That stuff catches up with you as you get older. If you're developing diabetes and high blood pressure at a young age, say in your teens. Think about, if you look at some early data, they look at about atherosclerotic plaque as it starts to develop. You start developing it in your teens. To some degree, but as you get older, of course, that's when things escalate. So if you're already diabetic, at 14,
Wow.
And your A1C level's 9. I mean, that's the hardest part in our community is getting people to understand that how you feel is important, but you can't let how you feel dictate your health. Because you don't feel typically.
Because you don't feel high blood pressure.
You don't feel your blood pressure being elevated. A lot of people say, I check my pressure when I get a headache. I'm like, but what about times you don't have a headache? Because just because you have a headache doesn't mean it's because your blood pressure was elevated. Why are you laughing, Barb?
Because I'm just thinking about
a
lot of times. No. I don't. But see, I don't get headaches. But but that is
You've
one
heard
thing.
That before.
I have heard that, and taking my blood pressure medicine is very important to me.
Yeah.
So that is something that I don't play around with. Yeah. Someone's called, Neil from Suffolk wrote us and wants to know how many times a week can he eat pancakes.
Neil, you about to get me in trouble on the air here. Well, the thing is this. I mean, you think about even pancakes. A lot of it's instant coming out of a box. Are you going to go back to the basics and do your own, where you do it from scratch, because that's the stuff that you want to look at doing. How do you go back to the basics, and do that? And under that circumstance, I mean, I tell people most time, if you want to do something, try to offset it by doing healthy things other times. Like I said, like if you want, like example, you want a piece of cake, then, work towards that. Do 2 weeks that you're eating everything right. You exercise, you're doing all the other things you're supposed to do. And then treat yourself at the end of a couple of weeks with something you really want. Because, it depends on what your ultimate goals are. If you're trying to lose weight, then you want to hold off on that kind of stuff for a while. But if you're just trying to maintain, I tell you, once a week, every couple of weeks, tops for stuff like that. But you got to watch like the amount of syrup you stick up there. People will stick butter, they put syrup, and they drown it. It's like you see more syrup than you see, and you know what I'm trying to say. You see more syrup than anything than you see the actual pancake. So that's really what you run into.
So the president, according to Mr. RFK Jr., he says on Trump's diet, I don't know how he's alive. Now they're saying that especially when he travels, that his diet is made up of four food groups: McDonald's, KFC, pizza, and diet soda.
Okay,
and he says that the reason he does that is because when he's traveling, he can trust those foods as opposed to someone else cooking. You know how when you're on the campaign trail, you could be running into various things. It may be something that you don't like. I don't know, but that's what he says.
Okay. And no comment on that.
I mean, it's just very interesting to me that on the one hand, we have the CDC and others saying, okay, we're going to make America healthy again, and so forth. But then again, leadership is showing a different step.
Yeah. I think part of the issue is, I may have commented to you on this before. I can't remember, but I told you my youngest was in Ireland for a semester.
Yeah.
So she was at UNC and she went there for a semester at the University of Limerick. But she commented when she would call me about how different the food was there versus in the States, and she was saying how the quality was so much better. And she said the pastries had less sugar. Over there they walk a lot of places. They of course have excellent public transportation, but they walk a lot of places they go in Ireland. So, she was just commenting about how much healthier she felt, with changing the diet, right? Just by that alone, she was always been an active kid or young adult, but now it's kind of like she really learned something valuable while she was there. That's why I think some of the health profiles are just better. So if you think about here, this is a capitalist society. Everything's about making money. So if you have these like the fast food joints or these deli meats, these other things, everybody's trying to make $1. So if you really were going to do it, if you really want to make America healthy again, you got to shut all that out, and but that's not going to happen,
Well, and I mean, the other piece of it too is because we're such a convenience society.
Well, we just become that, though.
Yeah,
we weren't always like that. We've become that, and we use that as a rationale to continue to do what we do. But they can look at our health profiles. Look at not so much our longevity as much as our morbidity, the diseases we collect and we develop as a result of our lifestyle. You may live longer, but you're less healthy and you don't feel as good.
Right.
So you ask yourself, is that really living too? So, I mean, it's tomato, however people feel about it. But I think if you really look at, if we were going to really do it, we got to shut some of this stuff down. But it's hard because people, again, that we're a convenient society. We want it quick. We want to be
we want it cheap
and quick.
and move it forward. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call. What questions do you have about diet? And we're also going to talk about vaccines in just a moment. So those think about those questions also. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. We also got a message from Elizabeth in Chesapeake. Wants to know, when we talk about moderation, what's the time frame? Once a week, once a month?
That's the one thing. Moderation is such a nondescript term, because I guess my moderation may be every day, just once a day versus 8 times a day. So, I think if you look at it really, I always try to tell people, earn it. Do 2 weeks and then get something that you want, but then come right back. I mean, and again, that's not a true definition, because moderation is whatever you choose to make it. But I think if you earn it, you say, okay, I'm going to do this for this time frame until I reach that goal or whatever it is, be it time or if it's weight or whatever. And then you treat yourself and then get right back on it. The biggest issue we have, I think, is our ability to shut it off. Once we start going down a different path, we don't know how to go back.
Well, and I mean, that's the whole thing, too, because mentally, that's another whole game. It's not only is your body trying to adjust to whatever changes that you're making, but also mentally you're saying to yourself, I can't have, or if I get to this place, and I get to have my treat, then now you're going to take it away from me?
Yeah, I tell you, the toughest thing I have found in healthcare is getting people to take it seriously.
Yeah.
But I've had patients who have heart attacks, need open heart surgery, have all this stuff, and they're trying to go right back to the lifestyle they had before, even though you try to tell them this is going to be to your undoing in the future if you continue down this path. But it's hard to get people to change that part. That's why I say sometimes just to not have access to it, because this is the issue here. Look at it. I could walk, if I walk down Handel Boulevard, I'll run into 5, 6 fast food joints within a certain radius. It's so accessible. It's right there. And then you drive, it's okay, let me stop here and grab something real quick. It's just what it's doing to us.
What I found, though, also is if you really get into the habit of not eating things or drinking certain things, they don't taste the same after a
really
point.
Doesn't.
And it doesn't, we don't have soda in the house.
Okay.
I mean, and we've really gotten used to drinking water all the time. And how I had to do that was find a favorite water bottle. And so I enjoy drinking out of that bottle, and that makes it easier. But
I know
you got to do things like that.
Yeah, I know a lot, and you find whatever tricks of the trade you can, But I know for a lot, water is tough. Just because it's really I won't say it has no taste, because that's not true. Distilled water has no taste. But I think it has. It's just a matter of getting used to you made that your preferred drink of choice.
Right.
I got a question for you though, because I was looking this up earlier. When we say the word whole grains, do you know what that really means?
Yeah. What does that mean?
Okay, because I had to look this up myself just to make sure. So they say grains are the seeds of grasses grown for food. So these plants are called cereals. So examples of wheat, oats, and rice. So like you get bran, that's the hard outer coating of a kernel. The germ is the part that sprouts into a new plant, and the endosperm is the energy supply for the seed. So it contains most starches. So and the nutrients that are in whole grains are vitamin A, all the B vitamins, B1, 2, 3, 6, 9, vitamin E. Iron is in whole grains. I didn't know that. Magnesium, phosphorus, and selenium. So, it's kind of when you hear that term, because I tell you what you run into is people will go and they'll get like, say, white rice. And they'll think that's whole grain, but that's enriched. So
enriched. So it's been processed.
Yes, yeah. So you want to really go back to the basics. If you eat oatmeal, they want to get instant oatmeal. That doesn't work that way. That stuff is crap, unfortunately. So
really,
instant oatmeal is the worst. There's like microwave popcorn. It's a hot mess. Microwave popcorn, instant oatmeal, anything that's packaged, you will find. If you really wanted to go back to the base of oatmeal, you got to cook it. You got to do it the old-fashioned way. You know, what I said, I forget that brand and stuff. You know what I'm talking about. I can't remember, but it's just, I see the face because the colonial looking dude on the front. But, you know, it's whatever it is.
I just had it, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So, I mean, so that you want to go back to the absolute basics and cook stuff. And you can. So
what's wrong with microwave popcorn?
It's something about. It said the way it's processed because of whatever they put in the bag is something how that works. Whatever they do to make it, preserve it, whatever, it just gets kind of messed up in there. So it's a microwave.
So you have to pop your own popcorn.
Yeah, either that or you can buy like that's Skinny Pop.
Skinny Pop
and there's a couple other ones like that are pretty good. Air Pop, you know, anything you air, you know, popping that stuff, and just even with the air fryers, you know, you can do good things with that, and it drains off some of the extra fat that you otherwise would eat.
Well, according to this, then we shouldn't have to worry about the fat anymore.
Well, yeah, that's true. But the thing is, but it depends on, again, you want to take some of this stuff with a grain of salt, you know, to a large degree, because, you know, the problem is, and we'll get into this with the vaccines, is sometimes people let their personal feelings get in the way of their recommendations. And I think that's the downside. I mean, I'm a Duke guy, even though I'm a Chapel Hill guy too. But you know, the data. What does the data in the literature say? And I even tell people, and I caution them when they read studies. I said, make sure you understand what that study is really showing. And see, because I'm a medical guy, I can look at a study and I can look at how it was designed and say, oh, yeah, this is a good study or this is junk. You know, so sometimes when people will come up with, they say, well, I read this study said, you know, vaccines are crap. Or I read this study said what you're eating is crap. I'm like, well, let's see, how was it designed?
Right. And what were they looking for in the study?
What was the question they were looking for? How was it designed? You know, how many patients? Was it powered appropriately for the number of patients they have, so they can make a clear estimation and guesstimation of whatever the data is supposed to show, and can you come to draw a conclusion that is represented by that information? And you'd be surprised, a lot of stuff is kind of messy, you know, because again, think about it, and who's paying for that study?
Right. That's the other thing, because if a company is paying for it, they want the results to come
look
out
a certain
to
way.
Look a certain
and
way.
Unfortunately, so that does happen. So I always tell people, don't just let one study drive you. You know, because I'll tell you a quick funny story. When I was at Duke, we were as a fellow. I remember we were going through the ICU or the CCU, or the critical care or coronary care unit. We would turn that thing. It was 16 beds in there, and literally we would have so many referrals coming in. We would sometimes get people coming with heart attacks. We put them in the ICU, angioplasty them or stent them. Boom, they were out of the ICU. So we would turn over 16 beds 2 and 3 times a day.
Wow.
And there was a study that came out saying that if you gave people high doses of magnesium intravenously, that was going to protect them from the effects of heart attacks. So we started giving people all these ridiculously high doses of magnesium based on that one study. Another study came out a couple months later, said that was junk. So, you know, again, you have to take some of it with a grain of salt. And I usually, my general rule is if I see 2 studies saying the same thing from different institutions, I feel comfortable that, I know that's probably solid, you know. And most of the things in the cardiology world have been worked out so well over the years. I mean, because Duke was really big on preventative medicine. So things like stress testing, how you interpret stress tests, all that stuff really came out of Duke University. So you would see the multitudes of studies demonstrating the improvement, you know.
But Keith, that's the confusing part, I think, also for people, because, like you said, this week, red wine is good for you. You're supposed to drink, you know, a glass a day. Next week, it's horrible. No alcohol whatsoever. I mean, and people, I think, just get really confused.
Well, I think remember that the context of that was the red wine for heart stuff, but then they had this other, remember, we talked about this in one of the shows about the cancer rates or any alcohol. So you have to take a lot of this stuff with a grain of salt. Is it better to just not do any of that? You know, because you can't go wrong to not do it. I mean,
True. Because it won't be in your body.
Exactly. So you have to take some of it with a grain of salt, but you have to take it to context as well. What's your goal? What are you trying to achieve? What are your other risk factors that you might have? That's why it's so important. I tell people to talk with your doctor, because I get folks that will read something and they'll think they all of a sudden they know it all. They Dr. X. And I'm trying to say, listen, you don't know enough. That's like me giving you financial advice. I'm not a financial guy. I mean, I can read enough to be dangerous, but you're not going to take tax tips from me. You'll be in jail. And that's not my job. I mean, it took me 17 years to become a cardiologist. 17 years. From college to medical school to training. That was 17 years of my life to do what I do. You think you know more than me reading something for 5 minutes? I mean, I'm just trying to tell people context. Mm-hmm. That's my area of expertise. You listen to patients because what they have to bring is what they're intrinsic, what they feel. That's how we make our determinations about next steps. So we need the input. But I'm trying to tell people our training has taught us to be mindful of how you interpret information. And that's where I'm trying to get people to try not to get so you know more than your doctor. You may know more about yourself, but you don't know about your health like your doctor would. At least one that's engaged with you.
Exactly.
I have to caveat that.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about your health with cardiologist Dr. Keith Newby, who is head of cardiology and also market director of community health improvement and engagement with Bon Secours. 440-757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. Have you checked out the new food pyramid? Will it help you to change your diet or give you something to think about at least? So I want to ask you two things, and then we're going to move on to vaccines. This is courtesy of the Washington Post. So they did this little quiz. I'm going to give you a quiz to say, based on the new food pyramid, is this a yes or no? Okay. So this one's real easy. Whole milk. Yes. You should have it.
Yeah.
Okay. Sugar-free Coke.
You should not.
You are good. It says the dietary guidelines say to limit non-nutritive artificial sweeteners.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Sauerkraut.
Sauerkraut? Mm-hmm. See, I don't know much about sauerkraut. I'm assuming it's good because it's a vegetable. I don't know what they do to sauerkraut, but I think it's okay.
It says absolutely yes. Okay. It says the guidelines for the first time explicitly endorse fermented foods such as sauerkraut, kimchi, kefir, and miso as good for gut health.
Okay. All right.
So, see, there you go. All right. This one was interesting. Flour tortilla turkey wrap.
Flour tortilla turkey wrap. Well, I guess it depends on the turkey, but if it's processed, then it's no.
Says not quite. The guidelines say to limit consuming refined carbohydrates such as flour tortillas and opt for whole grains instead. So that's back to that whole grain piece. It didn't say anything about the turkey, which is interesting. So I guess it depends on whether it's deli turkey or if it's most turkey that you just signed.
Yeah, most turkey wraps are going to be deli meat. Yeah. So that's the only reason I thought about that.
Butter.
I think that should be a yes.
Yes, butter is a yes. Absolutely. All right, here's another one. Cheeseburger on whole wheat bun.
I would say yes.
Yes, that's it. That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So
what,
back to the red meat and it's whole wheat. The bun is whole wheat.
Yeah, that's what I said. That was the part that that was a different, because we're back in that choosing whole grains, because I found some other stuff that may be helpful for people. They say if say half of your grains in your diet should be whole grains. Barley. I've never heard of bulgur with B-U-L-G-U-R. It's also called cracked wheat. Farro, millet. I think you may have mentioned millet. Quinoa, black rice. I never heard of black rice before. I've heard of brown rice, which is in there too. Red rice is in there. Wild rice is in there. Oatmeal, but popcorn, but not microwave.
And it's Quaker oatmeal.
Yes. Yeah, Quaker. There you go. Thank you. I'm thinking about colonial guys. Thank you. Yep. Whole wheat flour, whole grain breakfast cereals, and whole wheat bread, pasta, or crackers. So typically whole wheat just means it's going to be brownish.
It's going to be brownish.
So you just got to watch that, because that's the hardest part, is making sure you look at those labels correctly.
And you've got to read the labels.
Yeah, absolutely.
You do. You have to read the label.
And Peg has always told me, my wife, she always talks about the number. If you see too many ingredients in there, that's bad. So the least amount of ingredients tells you that it's basically what you're buying and no more. But when you start seeing like a laundry list of things in there, that's never good for you.
Yeah, because you look at it and go, what?
I know.
What is that?
What is this stuff?
That? Okay, let's talk about these vaccines.
Yep.
So the CDC this week came out with recommending that children get protected with vaccines against 11 diseases as opposed to the original 17 or 18 that they were getting. So they've cut the list down. So they said yes to measles, mumps, rubella, polio, diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, type B flu, pneumococcal disease, HPV, and chickenpox.
Okay. They
say don't get, or I should rephrase that. They're saying have a conversation with your doctor, if including influenza, flu shot, COVID-19, hepatitis A and B, RSV, meningococcal, rotavirus, and dengue. Dang.
Yeah, that's one of those. I know of that. I forget what that is, but I know one of those infections.
So the American Academy of Pediatrics has come out and said, we're not following that. Yeah. We're going to continue to recommend the full 18 in order to and parents are losing it because they don't know, what do I do?
Well, to me, I'm like, follow your doctor's advice. Because this is the thing. This is the problem, I think, with, most recommendations come from data-driven recommendations. So you get a lot of these situations with, like this new stuff. You already know there's some biasness against vaccines coming in, and they fired everybody in there, replaced them with all these other folks. And, I tell you, it's kind of interesting. And I would love to talk to a vaccine hater, for lack of a better term, and ask them, so walk me through why vaccines are bad, and just see what they say. Because it's kind of, I don't know if you remember that where Chris Rock did his last stand-up after the Will Smith incident, and it was called, I forget what it was called, selective outrage, or that was one of the things he did. And I remember that term, selective outrage, because that's what I always call this. You'll do, like, example, I get people that would tell me, they would fight me tooth and nail about vaccines, but they ask me for Ozempic. And I'm looking at them like, well, hold up. Walk me through, because the biggest issue people would tell me about vaccines, well, I don't know what's in it. You don't know what's in Ozempic either.
Yeah.
But selective outrage, okay, I know what the Ozempic is going to try to do for me, which is they're either trying to lose weight or whatever.
So do you think part of it is because if you get a vaccine and you don't get the whatever, it doesn't register with them in the same way? I mean, if you take a GLP-1 drug, you see a physical difference.
That may be.
Is that what it is?
Well, it's hard to really say with that, because I think people have been programmed to think vaccines are bad. When I was doing my public health course, I had to do a paper on vaccine hesitancy. And I'm going to tell you, it was kind of interesting. If you look at arguments from the 1920s and 30s, they're the same as the arguments now. I mean, it was crazy. It's like it was the exact same arguments.
Really?
They know what was in it. It was going to do one thing or the other. And it's almost like people are trained to think a certain way as opposed to looking at the facts.
But why is it with vaccines people are so worried about what's in it as opposed to, I mean, I don't know what's in the blood pressure medicine I take.
I know.
But
do.
You
hope
based on the fact that the doctor that I work with that I trust is giving me a drug and my blood pressure is regulated. Yeah. So
I think
what
it's something in, I think, how how vaccine stuff or vaccines are introduced into your line of thinking, and it was passed on generation to generation. You think about, parents are, unfortunately, so parents sometimes do give bad advice to their kids. Don't do that, or some Joe Blow off the street. Oh no, my cousin had that. He died a week later. I'm like, your cousin was a drunkard, and he was a crackhead. I mean, are you kidding me? It wasn't the vaccine that did it, or whatever. And I say that with somewhat jokingly, but serious at the same time, that you have to look at somebody's general health. What is their health like? And the thing like with COVID vaccines, everybody had a fit about that. But I'm going to tell you, when people would tell me, would say to me that they didn't know what was in it and they thought they were going to die, they took the vaccine. I said, you rather take your chances with COVID? Wow. And some people say, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, you know how many people I saw die with COVID? Give me that shot. I'll take my chances there, because when you saw the horrible death people had with COVID at the time, that was scary.
Yeah, and it's also interesting. I know there's a controversy around the myth, what's been proven to be the myth that vaccines cause autism. So that's a big issue. One of the doctors, though, that was put on, so there's a panel that run by the federal government that is supposed to evaluate vaccines and look at them and make decisions as to who should get them and what the time frame should be and all of that. And the Trump administration has changed the people on this panel, and many of them do not have vaccine experience or not MDs, don't have the background. But there was an article in the Washington Post where two doctors, one of which said, in the beginning, I was not anti-vax, but I am now, based on what I've learned. Now, she was saying that for her family personally, that her mother had her vaccinated, she had her kids vaccinated, but now that she's been on this panel, she will do everything in her power not to let her grandchildren get vaccinated. If you don't have herd immunity, like South Carolina right now, that's breaking out in measles, the big measles outbreak, what happens?
Well, people get sick and hopefully they recover, but some don't. I mean, it's kind of interesting when you hear people that develop anti-vax kind of mentality. I mean, I got tons of shots when I was a kid. I ain't like them. I ain't like needles in the more than anybody else, but I had to take them. And I think I did okay.
I remember the sugar cubes.
Yeah.
And we got those in school. We got those in school.
Yeah. So I mean, when you think about the impact, positive and negative. I mean, and a lot of people don't really understand what vaccines are designed to do.
Right.
They think
that's the other piece.
That's, I think, a big thing. And I try to tell people that look at it like an army you're trying to form, because your immune system has to be intact. Somebody thinks like, okay, I can exercise my way into good health, which is true, but your exercise can make your immune system more responsive quicker. But if your immune system has never seen that particular virus, it still has to learn it to know how to attack it. And if it doesn't have that precursor to it, which is what vaccines are designed to do, was to train your immune system. When I see this, I know I need to attack it. But if your body hasn't been trained to see that, it's not going to respond, but so quickly it doesn't have time. So that's really the thing that vaccines are designed to do, is to allow you to afford protection against it. It doesn't mean you're never going to get it. You may still get it. You may not, but the thing is you have in your body attuned. But a lot of people also do not do the other stuff with it, the exercise, the diet, all the other things that go along with your general good health. It has to be a program that you decide to put together to help you and your family.
It's much more holistic.
Yeah. I mean,
it's not just a vaccine.
Yeah, because that's great, and I think you should still get the vaccine, but there's more to your good health than just taking a pill. There's more to your good health than just taking a vaccine. There's more to your good health than saying I'm going to exercise. It has to be the program, what you eat, how you exercise, how you live your life, what's your stress levels like. All these things impact your immune system. Make it either attune it, make it more reactive, or you can depress it by not doing certain things. And that's where it comes to where the problem lies.
So if you are a parent or anybody, and you go in and you talk to your doctor about this, what kinds of questions should you be asking?
I tell people, just like procedures, some doc says you need this procedure done. I tell people ask 4 questions. What are the risks? What are the benefits? What are the pros? And what are the cons? To me, if you ask those 4 questions and have them, you just map it out. Look at the pros and the benefits on one side. Look at the risks and the cons on the other side. Which one adds up more? and that can always help you make your best decision. And I tell people all the time, listen to your doctor. Don't listen to some, person on the street that doesn't really know this stuff really well. And I always say you got to go with somebody that you feel comfortable. You know how they process information. How do they come up with a recommendation? When I'm talking to patients, I always tell them the reasons why. I don't say just take the pill. This is what I'm trying to help you prevent you from having. This is what this medicine is designed to do. Somebody will always say, I always joke, I say, our first question in our community, the first question is always, what are the side effects of any medicine? Right. I said, your first question should be, how is this going to help me? That should be your first question.
Interesting.
Now, the side effects could come down the road, but to me, the first question should be that, how is this going to help me live a better life or whatever?
Because most of the time a doctor, I would assume, would not prescribe a medication where the side effects outweigh the benefits.
Well, see, but the only thing with that is you won't know until they take it, because there are, and even when you think about it, the one thing that bothers me so much with pharmacies, when they give you your medicine, they give you like the sheets and stuff go along with it. All they do is list,
scare you to death.
Yeah, they list everything
that can go wrong.
Yeah, but the problem is if you think about, if you look at the PDR, which is a physician's desk reference, that's what we use as our guide. When we look up a drug, it tells you the risk, like the percentage risk of X side effects. If you look at most of those, it'll be like, let's say like 12% experience X, and it'll be only like one or two things. 5%, one or two things. 1%, one or two things. Less than 1%, 800 things. Because it's like, that's like the less than 1%, which means that we don't really know that was a side effect of that med, but people reported it. So you have to look. But if it's less than 1% of the patients taking it, to me, I'm like, okay, you get 100 people that you give this medicine to. Less than one of them has an issue. I'm like, so that means there's a 99% chance I'm going to do okay with this. Why am I going to look at the less than 1% if the benefits that I would attain far supersede what that less than 1% would do in harm's way? And think about it. If you have a side effect, you stop the drug. And the side effect goes away. There's no such thing I've ever seen of permanent side effects. I mean, rarely that you would have that. Like 99% of side effects would go away once you stop the medication. The one thing I tell people is don't just assume that just because you experience something is coming from that drug. It could be coincidental too. So,
that's why you also recommend if you're going to, when you get your flu shot and your COVID shots and so forth.
Don't do it at the same time.
That you don't do them at the same time.
I mean, you can do it, but the thing is, if you have a problem, you don't know which did it. And it could have been a combination of both, whereas one or the other.
Your body's going,
yeah. So, I mean, and I know you can do it like that. And some people say, well, I just want to get one shot, be done with it, But I always tell people, spread it out. I had my flu shot back a couple months ago. I mean, I didn't have any issue at all. I mean, I've had 6 COVID shots, and I didn't have a problem with any of them, to be honest. I think the second one, I think I got tired. And I slept for several hours after I got that. But that was the most I've ever had. But that was a me
I just
thing.
got a sore arm. That was for me.
I mean, but I think of but I do know this. Clinical practice. I saw when COVID vaccines came out, it kind of started coming out in November of whatever year it was. December, I got my shot after Christmas, my first COVID vaccine. But by March, I mean, I saw a precipitous drop in admissions once the COVID vaccine became really,
widespread.
Yeah, widespread that everybody could get to. I mean, I'm serious. I had where at one point in time, I had almost half of my patients in the hospital were COVID patients. That dropped to almost less than 5% by May of that year, starting for and really it became more available like mid-February and on.
In 2020.
But in March, I started seeing the drop in hospitalizations. By April, I saw an even greater drop. And then by May, June, I mean, I only had like 1 or 2 COVID patients in the hospital. And those are typically people that wouldn't get vaccinated. So I mean that, and again, that's not everybody.
One of the arguments too that people say about vaccines is, well, because they said it about the COVID vaccine, well, it happened too fast. They made it too fast, which I find really interesting. Because do any of us know how long it took to get the MMR
That's what I'm telling you. But that's propaganda that comes out, and that's the issue. Is people hear that, and then all you need is one naysayer with a microphone, and they'll just kind of turn everybody else off. I do think that's where our fault in the medical community. I think we weren't out there enough. We weren't out there as much as the naysayers. You know, and the naysayers had the mic, and they were talking.
And they were talking.
You know, and I think that was problem A. You know, was that.
So the bottom line is have a conversation with your doctor,
absolutely,
with your pediatrician,
absolutely,
and ask as many questions as you need to.
Yeah, because even that stuff with the autism stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, how many people really have autism? Compared to, it's almost like you ever see where you get an athlete that will drop dead, you know, in the middle of the floor, and they have some type of heart issue. So then every mother's going to have their kid in the doctor's office after they hear that. But think about how many kids are out playing ball every day, you know, and how many people actually have an event. The problem is once you have that type of event, it becomes almost sensationalized and everybody gets nervous. So the same thing happens to me with vaccines. So all you need is one person that had a problem, and it just escalates up. Then all of a sudden, nobody wants to take it. But I said, think about the number of people that had the vaccine. How many of those actually had a problem?
And, you know, I mean, we're talking about COVID-19 right now, but all of these vaccines have been around and been here forever because we and I are older.
We're not going to talk about that today.
We said we're older, not old. Okay, so big snowstorm potential coming up this weekend.
Yep. Don't buy everything up in the store.
Okay, there you go.
Save something for the people that need it too. I've never seen anything like it before. Because, you know, I was joking with somebody about this the other day. Last weekend, of course, didn't do much of anything.
Right, and so everybody
bought them. Right. I say, well, at least you got stuff for this weekend, hopefully. But, you know, I tell people all the time, you know, if you look at any snowstorm we have in Virginia, characteristically, how many days you actually going to be laid up? Maybe two. Maybe. Well,
now they're talking about this one could potentially be for those of you who were here back in I think it was the 80s when when the circus snow.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
So I think you were locked down for longer than 2 days, weren't you?
Well, I don't remember it being much more than that, to be honest with you. It kind of just depends, you know. But if you look at characteristically, you know, you're not going to be laid up for a month.
No,
you know?
No.
But people buy it like they're going to be laid up for a month. I mean, and I tell people all the time, don't be so selfish. Don't feel like you have to buy everything yourself. It's almost like gimme. There are other people that need supplies as well. You know, be careful to say, okay, let me assume I'm gonna be laid up for maybe 3, maybe 4 days,
right?
And buy accordingly. But leave something for the other people.
Any tips on like shoveling?
Yeah, I tell people all the time, do not. If you know you got heart disease, please don't go out there shoveling in the snow because I don't want to work that hard this weekend. You know, don't go out there. Don't do, cause especially if you haven't done anything
and you have had no exercise
whatsoever. Try to go out there and think you're going to shovel it all at one time. Take multiple breaks. You know, layer up your clothes because you don't want to get frostbite out there. So you want to make sure you layer up clothes. Go out there for a defined period of time. I tell people 30 minutes, then go back inside for a while. I know it's a pain in the neck because people are like out there, I just want to get it done. And I hear you, but you also want to live through it. Yeah. You know, if you have, and I don't know what the prediction on the amount of snow, I hadn't heard that at all.
Latest prediction, I believe, Lisa, 6 to 12?
Okay. 6 to 12?
6 to 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, typically, you know, every time they say that here, it's like, don't even, if you get a spattering of snow, that's a lot. So, but every now and then they'll be right, you know. So you go on the assumption that that's going to be right. So I would tell people, like, make sure you got your salt your driveway, you know, so, but don't go out to try to kill yourself, you know, just salt the driveway, take your time doing it, make sure it's down. And then, you know, if you want to see the snow start coming down, if you want to do a little bit of shoveling, you know, when it's like an inch or two so that you're not killing yourself later. I mean, you know, just be smart with your activities, but be mindful of your particular heart condition if you have one. if you know you have high blood pressure, make sure you understand what your pressures are before you go out there and try to, because that snow is heavy. When you really think about it, it's powdery and light, but once it's packed, then it starts. Then you talk about weight. So you try to shovel that stuff up and throw it somewhere, and that stuff is heavy. That's a lot of taxation on your heart.
The other thing, too, is for kids and so forth to be mindful of where they are playing in the snow, because if you can't get to urgent care for a broken arm or a,
or
whatever.
And don't play in the street either, because unfortunately, people around here can't drive all the time. I laugh saying that, but when you don't, the one thing here, I don't drive well in snow because that's not something we do here very often.
That's true.
So
I've lost my skills because coming from Baltimore,
I know you had to deal with a lot
driving,
more. But when you're trying to drive in snow, think about it. If you see kids playing, even if they're on the sidewalk, you get to a skid motion.
There's nothing
you could do.
That's right.
So I tell people, be careful, be mindful, drive slow if you're going to be out in it. And to me, just layer up on the clothes, but try to take your time with anything you do.
And if you lose power, be very careful with candles, heating elements, that kind of thing.
We don't know, fire chief don't want to be out there every 5 seconds. But make sure also that if you do, watch about frostbite too, because if you don't want to come right back inside and put your hands in hot water, a lot of people would do that. And that could be worse.
So do not put your hands in hot water.
Do not. Now, if you've been out there, your hands are ice cold. Just let them warm up naturally. If you want to put them in a blanket or something, but if you put hot water on it, you can mess yourself up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, some people get frostbite like that because that cold, going from extreme cold to extreme hot temperature.
And do you know off the top what the symptoms are of hypothermia when you need to get back in the house?
That's a good question. Typically, I can glance it real quick. Typically is, for most people, it's just that feeling of chills and, then your mentation starts to go. That's one of the things I see more of. But let's look it up real quick. Symptoms of hypothermia.
Hypothermia.
We got a couple minutes here, don't we?
Yeah, we got about a minute and a half.
Okay. So symptoms of hypothermia. Uncontrollable shivering, which I said, slurred speech, confusion, fumbling hands, exhaustion, memory loss. So most people you'll see like shallow breathing, but that's like you noticing somebody else. So if you're looking at somebody and they're not mentating right or they start sounding confused, that's time to call 911.
So you should call 911 because that's serious.
Because that's serious if they're like that. Anytime you see people changing their narrative, somebody normally talk your head off, all of a sudden they're not talking anymore, and then you may say, good, they stop talking.
But that may not be the right time to say that. That may not be the right time
to say that. So listen, audience there, don't give me a pass because I've been working hard. But I love joking about things. You got to have fun in this job. So I like joking with people. People that know me know I love everybody. This is my it's the way I was brought up, I guess. So, but just make sure you're careful out there.
As always, I love having conversations with you, and it is just great. So be careful, enjoy the snow, build the snowman.
But the sad part about back in the day, it was cool with that, but now I gotta work still.
Now you still gotta work. Audience, the main point of today's program is to encourage you to take care of your health, find a trusted healthcare partner, share your concerns, do your homework using trusted sources, and then make informed decisions. Now you can listen to this show again because we have a trusted source, or any of our programs at whro.org, on Spotify, or on your favorite podcast platform. Next week on Another View, we hope, meet entrepreneur, podcaster, and philanthropist Arrington Gavin. He has an amazing story. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Jordan Christie is our audio engineer, and Dr. Barry Graham answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Looks like another winter weather adventure this weekend, everybody. So stay safe and stay warm, and join us again next Thursday at noon for Another View.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.